Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, your home for all Golden Grizzlies basketball. My name is Giovanni Moceri. I am the host of the GioMoShow, and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the GioMoShow for all things Golden Grizzlies. Follow the Instagram at the GioMoShow. Follow me on Twitter at GioMoSheriWXOU, and use the hashtag the GioMoShow to stay connected with all things the GioMoShow. So what we got here is we got the kind of recap. We got the episode highlighting the Houston game as well as a Defiance game, although it's been a pretty crazy weekend, so I'm going to be a little bit brief on this one, especially just because the way the games turned out, there isn't a whole ton of analysis to had here. More of a narrative focused type of episode for me, which, I lean in a little bit more into the narratives anyway. So we'll get right off the rip here. So I was just at the arena covering the Defiance game, kind of keeping some notes here and there, but it's the Defiance game. It was 13-2 within like the first 60 seconds. Final score was 113-47. There's very little that you're really able to take out of it as far as scheme strategy, as far as player performance, so there was a little things, and especially visiting the post-game press conference that gave us a little bit more meat on this bone, but there wasn't a ton to chew on. But when you go to Houston, sadly, it's kind of a similar story. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to the game or watch the game live, as I had another event going on at the time, a paid gig, so, priorities. But from that one, that Houston game was much more what you would expect, and honestly, what I expected going into these first three games of the season, where it's going to be, Oakland's not going to be able to do much. The team is just, kind of an upper class, the literal best team in the country. It's a little bit more of what we expected. Now, the Purdue game was a total surprise to us. That one was not what we expected. Michigan and Houston, though, were a little bit more in that nature of it. And it was a bit of an ugly defensive battle. We'll get to a kind of rough breeze through the game. Against Houston, it was a lot uglier, and Houston's known a lot more for a kind of a suffocating defense type of deal, and that was kind of what was had. Holding Oakland to just 45 points, it was a Houston win 78-45. But even though Oakland was 31% from the floor, they were 23% from three. They only made 3 triples throughout the entire game. They made none in the first half and made 3 of 8 in the second half, as well as 10 of 15 from the free throw line. I mean, overall, a pretty ugly shooting day, but honestly, Houston didn't shoot that much better. Now, 45% from the floor is no joke either, but they were 9 of 31 from deep. They were only 29% from 3, and they were 5 of 8 from the free throw line. They didn't even get a ton of whistles on their home court. Oakland getting almost double, actually, 15 free throws compared to Houston's 8. So it was just a lot more of an ugly matchup, but still one that is part of the overarching theme of these first 3 games, which is to really just, to the absolute extreme, to the nth degree, prepare Oakland for huge situations come Horizon League time, to play in big, loud atmospheres for the Horizon League play. Because if you've played in in Chrysler Arena, if you've played in Mackey Arena, if you've played in what is Houston's called, like Kistler Arena, it is the Fertitta Center. Fun fact. But either way, the point is, when you've played in those kinds of environments, then when you go to the Horizon League, you go to Detroit Mercy and even a little more rambunctious places in the Horizon League. I can't even think of any off the top of my head as far as like a notoriously loud fan base in the Horizon League. But, either way, it's like that. It normalizes it to a huge degree. So it's all about getting the players more comfortable in those situations in the most important part of the season. And so this one was just kind of like the beating you had to take. It's gonna pay dividends down the line. But I want to talk about what I heard from Kampe as far as the post-game press conference at the Defiance game. Because, this was really the first time that me personally have been able to be, in person with Coach. It's the first home game. So it's the first post-game press conference we've had. We spoke with Warren Marshall as well as Brett White, and got some of their perspective of it as far as the huge shift from those teams playing Defiance. And with the biggest, there's two huge things to me that stood out in that post-game press conference. The first of which was the fact that Kampe, now he does this from time to time, but this was the most direct call out of the student section.
First of all, I was a little disappointed in the crowd. I can say that because I've been here for so long, I guess. But, when you walk onto the courts we've walked onto, and we kind of asserted ourselves pretty well over those first three games. A lot of national media has been talking about us, and there's some hype to our team. I think we've proven we've probably got a chance to be really good. I was very disappointed in the student section tonight. I do think that we got a high-flying team that makes a lot of exciting plays, and the way we get out and run in that, it's going to be very pleasing to the eye, basketball. So I would think that, it's something that our students would love, and there are a lot of people, the 1,800 people were here today, they all getting free pizza. That's probably going to happen a lot this year. So
I tried very hard when I was at Oakland in the times that I was not on the radio and not on the broadcasts to try and galvanize that student section. Front row, you guys have seen the glasses, the flag. That was something I held really personal to me. So I agree with Coach. Listen, Grizz Gang, student section, all the fraternities and clubs and whatever, get to games, man. You got to get to games. It's the biggest event on campus. It couldn't be closer. It's right in the middle of campus. Tickets are free for students. It's something that I have just been bothered by ever since I started coming to these games. And it's not a COVID excuse anymore. We're way beyond that. You got to get to games. So I am adding on to the fire that can't be started. I am also calling out the student section. I am also calling out the Grizz Gang. You guys got to fill that student section where you sit way too close to the team to not have an effect on it. I have personally had effect on games. I know it. I've gotten in players' heads. I've gotten them to respond. I have gotten them, a little bit off their game. It happens and it works. You guys have the power to do that and to help Oakland win. And the Buddies coupons or whatever promotions they have are also fun. So that was big point number one as far as the post-game press conference. Second one, I asked Coach because they play UCF in, by the time you guys see this on Sunday, tomorrow. And that's a really tight turnaround. You play Houston Wednesday, then Saturday, then Monday. When are you going to be able to prepare for UCF? So I asked Coach that. I asked, was there any preparation that goes into a game against Defiance, or were you guys focused on preparing for UCF? And he kind of stuttered, hesitated, and had to be careful of his words of this. This is the first time I've seen Coach have to kind of navigate his answer through a question in this way. Turns out, funny I happened to have asked, it was such a tight turnaround that what the coaching staff did, Kampe told me that they disguised the offense that they were scouting and that they were playing defense against to kind of simulate Defiance. They pretended that was Defiance. The offense they were actually preparing against was UCF's the whole time. Somehow he pulled it off. Him and his coaching staff pulled off this coup to have them think they were preparing for Defiance, but in actuality, they were preparing for UCF. And Kampe made sure to say there was no disrespect to Defiance, and if they had a little bit more time to play UCF, then that would not have been the case. But that, to me, opens a ton of can of worms when it comes to preparing. And, one, I kind of wonder, did the players really, I'm questioning the validity of it a little bit. It's hard to believe, I should say. Did they really think that they were only preparing for Defiance and then they were just going to hop on the plane to Florida and just wing it against UCF, a team that is now at their, after playing up in its competition, they're now playing at their own level, them and then Eastern in their next game. They're not going to prepare for those games at all. They're only going to go to Defiance and then just wing it. I got a hard time thinking that the players were that convinced of it. Maybe it was presented that way, and it's not something that Kampe wants to, kind of promote or whatever. He doesn't want his players thinking that they are planning ahead and they're not focused on their next opponent in regular season play, whether it's Defiance or not. He doesn't want them to think that, but it's like, it's just the way the schedule turned out. I mean, like, what else were you going to do to prepare for it? Like, you kind of had to play it that way. Maybe they dressed it up just to make it seem like they're preparing for the Yellow Jackets. But, you know, I found that just incredibly fascinating. I never would have considered that as a possible answer for it. I thought they just wouldn't have prepared for it and were just, you know, pretty much honest about it and only preparing for UCF as opposed to the theatrics they played with their players, according to Kampe at least. I found that hilarious. Otherwise, Kampe was very pleased with the game against Defiance, and as far as kind of like a summary of their trip through the top 10 of the country, he is still in constant pursuit of putting Oakland on the map as far as national recognition, as far as building the program and to continually improve and expose it to the national audience. And basically the litmus test for that is, you know, do people know that Oakland is in Michigan? That's pretty much when you know you've made a big impact on it. And beating Kentucky goes a long way in doing that, but he's still in constant pursuit of that. And he cited that in those post-game press conferences with Matt Painter of Purdue and Kelvin Sampson of Houston in particular. You know, I'm sure Dusty May had things to say as well, but he happened to have mentioned their previous two opponents, that they just spoke of Oakland, and he didn't say it, but I'll say it, and spoke of Kampe in incredible, respectful terms. Respect of the program, respect of what Kampe means to the game of college basketball, especially in Michigan, in the Detroit area, how big of a deal this program is and the respect that these teams have for us. That goes a long way in Kampe's, you know, pursuit of Oakland excellence. To put it in that way. So, and I think that especially with the way we played against Purdue, we've earned a few points in that. I think we've done more than enough as far as exposure and respect on a national stage. Now we're still Horizon League. I'm not saying that, you know, we should all knees should bend at the name of Oakland. No. But still, it's like not a ton of programs get that kind of coverage. Not a ton of Horizon League teams get opponents like that and get coverage like that. So I believe it's working. And I also think it's pretty cool just on its own. But I don't want to wrap things up just yet. I want to give a very well-deserved shout out and spotlight to Isaac Garrett, who we talked about in the game against Michigan. Because he was especially the star player of that game, not only in the statistical category, but also in the style points, in the stylish points that he scored against the Wolverines. But through these first three games, he's been a freaking monster. He has averaged 17 points against top 7 teams in the country, one number 7 and 2 number 1s. He has been crazy. And specifically against Houston, he was 20 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal on 50% shooting from the floor, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. Isaac Garrett is going to be crazy when Horizon League season comes. Hopefully we'll be able to get a preview of it at the UCF and Eastern Michigan game as we kind of bring ourselves down to a Oakland-like level of things. But for the combination of Baru and Isaac Garrett, Nate Deere showing great size and strength against Defiance as well. So there's a lot going on as far as the big dudes on this team, and Isaac Garrett being a huge piece of that. He's going to be nuts when it comes to conference play. I can't wait to see what he's got cooking up for that. I can't wait to see what more deer hunting he's got going on. I'm wanting to ask him, if I get him on the show or we get him at a post-game press conference, I want to know how the deer hunting is in Michigan compared to Utah. I was hoping he would be part of it in this post-game press conference. Not the case, so I'll have to save that for a little bit later. But if he happens to be watching, you can let us know how's the deer hunting going on here. But either way, I'm excited for everything that he's got going on. Isaac Garrett's going to be phenomenal for the Golden Grizzlies going forward this season. So I wanted to make sure that gets its proper shout out here before we wrap things up here on the GioMo Show. We'll cut this thing in right before my fantastic outro. But either way, wanted to make sure that gets included. So that wraps up my thoughts as far as the Defiance game goes. Next up, it is the University of Central Florida. Well, they'll be flying to Orlando probably now, as if you're watching this right now. They got to pretty much hop on a plane and make it work, and hopefully that disguised preparation would be enough to put on a good show for them. That game is on. Let me check the schedule here. They will be playing UCF on November 17th at 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. They do not appear on national television until possibly January 11th. Where they will be playing Wright State. That could be on ESPN Plus, or it could be on ESPN2, according to the program. And then afterwards at Milwaukee, or that's at home against Wright State. At Milwaukee has a chance on being on ESPNU, and a couple of other Horizon League games. About 3 of them throughout the rest of the season will have a chance of being on national television. But otherwise, we have gone through our supply of nationally televised games. Michigan, and by the way, for those that are asking, the Michigan State game will be on Big Ten Network. Hooray. But it will also be on WXOU because I can't stand the subscription services. I didn't watch the game on Peacock. I listened to part of it on WXOU. And you don't have to get Big Ten Network to experience Oakland and Michigan State. WXOU's got you for free on YouTube. So don't sweat it. Those guys got you. Anyway, so that will be the case for their game against UCF on ESPN Plus. And also you got, obviously there's Neil Rule on the radio, which is a great way to enjoy the game as well. I mean, just me knowing him, learning from him, talking to him, his style, I think his style of play-by-play, and especially a unique sense, a unique homerism to it. It's really good for the home crowd, and pretty much it's only the home crowd that's going to be listening to the Neil Rule radio broadcast of Oakland basketball. Let's be real. So he serves very well to the audience that is listening to it. So all that just to kind of help you guys navigate ways to watch Oakland and not pull your hair out and trying to find it. But anyway, that is what's up next on the schedule. And what's also up next on the schedule as far as the GioMoShow is concerned, we got guests coming. I don't want to spoil them yet, and I also don't have confirmed interview dates, but I do have interviews lined up for the GioMoShow to get inside perspective as to the Golden Grizzlies from the player side, from the coach side, from the broadcast side. We got a ton coming up here on the GioMoShow. I hope you guys will be here to stay tuned to it. Like and subscribe, 5-star review would be your way to do it. Follow the Instagram page of the GioMoShow at the GioMo Show. And that'll wrap things up here for your coverage of Golden Grizzlies basketball. Next episode, we'll be talking about their game against UCF and take a look at what they got coming up against the Eastern Michigan Eagles. My name is Giovanni Moceri here for the GioMoShow, and we'll see you soon.